Hello everybody, Pinstripe here. Welcome back to Tabletop Simulator. Today, as you can see, we have a huge, major, big old update because everything here on TTS looks completely different, or near enough, compared to the demo version. The devs have been very busy with constant playtesting and, as you can see, have updated everything, so we now have everything you can expect to find, or near enough everything you can expect to find in the Kickstarter version. We have a lot to break down in this video, but we're going to start, of course, with the board itself. As you can see, there is a lot more going on as we now have labels as to where to put your base depending on which team you are, and a whole bunch of other things, including a brand new game mode. In fact, all of the game modes themselves, all the missions, are listed in this book. Not all of them, but the majority of them. The first 8 of them have been listed here, and they all contain more detail in terms of what is what you need to do to get promotion points, what the objective is. Just so much stuff to break down, to the point where it's a little bit too much to break down in this single video, but we will be going through all of this in separate videos. Of course, we still need to get through the recruitment and end phase guides, which have been turned on their head slightly because there have also been unit changes, cost changes, and yeah, just so much else. So like I said, the board itself, we have the promotion point here in the middle, which whoever controls this will gain 1 promotion point per round, and it is basically King of the Hill. So you control this, and it obviously includes all of the other types of landscapes. So alongside having forests and mountains, we also have lakes here where you will find your aqua tanks. There are additional swill refineries on here as well, which are plotted across the board, and there's also swamps as well, which was included in the Kickstarter. Also, as I mentioned in the previous videos in relation to the miniatures game, there wasn't a board that was to hide the players' air consoles, and now we have an even better description of what everything is and how the aerial phase works. The console itself has been simplified as well. We now only have 1 initiative per player, basically, because previously we had initiative for movement and an initiative for shooting, and now it is just for movement. So you can see down here it says speed 3, move 3 hexes, allowed 1 turn, must rotate 1 hex facing left at any hex, and that is of course if you choose to turn left. There has also been a better understanding of your allowed turns, your penalty if you're going at a certain speed, and if you're allowed to drop a bomb at any given speed value. So for instance, we now have a very simple table that tells you everything you need to know. The self-damage indicator, which was previously an indicator for stalling, is still the same, so you would still roll 1 explosive dice to determine if you have self-damaged your aircraft, and you also have a better indicator as to knowing when you can drop a bomb. So if you're going at speed 1, 2 or 3, you can, but speeds 4, 5 and 6, bombs cannot be dropped. There is also a machine gun penalty, so if you're going at speed 3, 4, 5 or 6, then you are to remove any of these kind of dice, which is a huge thing, considering that if you look at the twin machine gun index here that shows you all of the dice that you should roll depending on your range, it really changes up the gameplay. Aerial combat was pretty complicated, and now it's just easily simplified and a lot easier to understand, so I'm going to enjoy actually getting into this when we play some multiplayer with the devs, hopefully towards the end of June, but that is of course to be determined. But do stay tuned. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter to stay updated with other things in relation to the videos I make and upcoming events and everything else. So alongside having the turn order overview, the aerial plane rules, you also have the deployables now included on this board, and we have some additions as well alongside the minefield AA guns and artillery. So starting from the top, we have the Hedgehog, which costs 2 swill. Ground vehicles cannot move through or onto this hex. Hedgehog must be destroyed first. So that's pretty good. You could probably get your engineers in there to destroy that, and of course it is just a barrier. I mean, if we look at the artwork as well that has been updated here, you can see it has the clear indicator that vehicles can't move over this. Of course we have the mines, we have the AA guns, we have the artillery, and of course we also have bunkers and trenches, which if we go back to the deployable, we can see that trenches, all ground units adjacent to this hex receive a cover bonus of -2 gun dice. So trenches allow players to deploy infantry adjacently, which is awesome because previously you would have to rely on your base. Previously you could only spawn in pigs that were adjacent to your base hex, so you could only deploy them from here, but now having additional trenches, I mean, if you place them, I guess, anywhere on the board, they can be deployed adjacently to said trench. And finally, bunkers. All ground units adjacent to this hex receive a cover bonus of -1 explosive and gun dice, so that's pretty huge. Bunkers allow players to deploy infantry adjacently, so you can again do the same with trenches and bunkers in deploying your troops rather than just relying on deploying them straight from your base hex. So in terms of deployables, Hedgehog costs 2 swill, Trench costs 4, Bunker costs 5, Mines only cost 1 now, they previously cost 2, AA guns cost 3, and Artillery costs 4. In terms of range for these 3, as they are the only ones that require you to roll any dice to attack the enemy, they seem roughly the same, but Artilleries, I forgot to mention, you can actually use an action point to turn the artillery to face a particular direction. So that is the deployables and the aerial phase, pretty much. I mean, the miniatures themselves are still the same for the planes, but we also still have the construction tokens. The burn tokens are a bit more clear now with numbers on them as well, including the reduction of action points and the reduction of health. In these bags you'll find some goodies as well, in fact just other tokens including bombs, more bombs, and F-rain bombs as well, which is interesting because I do not know which deployable or weapon will allow that to happen. I guess we'll have to find out somewhere. Somewhere in here there is a vehicle or weapon that allows you to drop firebombs. And this bag contains the damage dice that you use to place onto your console when it is damaged. And now on to the bigger thing, which is the miniatures themselves for each class of pig. I mean, we still have the grunts, they are still here, but they have been scaled down to fit the size of the board because previously they were this size, they were ginormous, which is a nice little touch. And of course, they are the same sculpts that you will find once the final game has been released. Additional little details that I love as well is the inclusion of a little flag depending on which nation you happen to be controlling. The Tommy's Trotters here, I mean, look at that cute little flag there, the little nose in the middle, and the Germans here, they have a little pig with wings in the center of their flag too. There has also been balance changes to the classes as well. For instance, the Engineer can now use 1 action point to remove 2 construction tokens from deployables and 1 action point to remove 1 damage from adjacent vehicles. The previous focus was that it was mainly on removing damage from tanks, but now because there's more vehicles, that's been reduced to 1, but being able to remove 2 construction tokens from deployables is huge, considering the fact that you have to use 2 action points with most classes to deploy a deployable fully. Now you can just use one of them to place it and then just leave it for your engineer to come along and fully build it as well. It's pretty insane. What you'll also notice about the infantry cards is the fact that there has been a big change to the use of the unit cap. That has now been removed, so we now have the initiative value, the action points, and the health of the class in the top right corner. I'm actually quite thankful that they removed the unit cap as well, because that was becoming kind of confusing. The main question I had at the time was, is the unit cap sort of overall, including all of your units, or is it just for that one specific class? And if we come over here to the base building area, you can see that there is now a much easier way of seeing how many units you can get from whatever building. So for instance, with each factory you can unlock 2 additional tanks, and we now have 3 factories here for tanks specifically. You also have 2 airfields which unlock just 1 biplane, and of course you still can only build 1 airship as well. So that doesn't have a ×1 on there, but it's pretty self-explanatory because of how big the airship is and how many additional blimp parts there are now, which we'll get onto in just a moment. So the units have been simplified. Like I said, you have the initiative value, which decides in what turn your pig will be able to be used. So like I said, it's still the same. The orderly goes first, the engineer second, then the grunt, then the sniper, then the bombardier, then the aqua tank, and then the regular tank. You have your action points, which obviously, like I said, decide what you can do during battle, and you now have health. So all classes except for the grunt have 3 health, and vehicles still have their health determined by how many action points they have. In this case, it has now been increased so that tanks, both aqua and regular, have 4 action points. That is a big change, but another big change, and again a little bit more clarity as well, which is kind of nice, is the fact that if you look at the bottom there where you can see what this tank can do, either a cannon or a barrage, that symbol next to it determines in what sort of direction you can shoot. So you must be forward facing, of course, but you can either shoot straight, slightly to the right, or slightly to the left. So that will be 1 hex to the left or 1 hex to the right. Meanwhile, the barrage, you can only shoot straight forward with the main cannon, but just look at all those melee and explosive dice in there. Again, it's just another welcome addition, and it's a lot easier in clarifying sort of if you have your tank on the board, and if I'm facing a certain direction, you know, who can I shoot? How can I shoot? Do I have to be shooting straight forward? Can I be facing this way and still shoot over here? It's just, it clarifies things a lot, because like I said, if you use the regular cannon, then I can shoot straight forward, I can shoot slightly to the right or slightly to the left. And like I said, with the barrage, I can only shoot straight forward. Then we get onto the juicier of the vehicles. We have the aqua tank, which is going to be huge, considering that you can turn 2 or move 1 forward hex, or you can ignore lakes and river terrain, which basically means that the aqua tank is able to traverse over them, which is pretty self-explanatory because, well, aqua plus tank equals can go on water. What's interesting about this tank as well is the fact that it is sort of multi-purpose, so you can see that the airburst can only be targeting enemy aircraft and has a range of 2, 3 or 4, but includes 4 gun dice with every single range, and the howitzer, which can only shoot straight forward but has a range of 3, 4 or 5. There is a bigger cost as well for shooting, seeing as the howitzer, as you can see in the bottom left, requires 2 action points, and the barrage from the tank requires 3. Going back to the flags as well, you can see on the capture tokens, the flags are on there too. That's a nice little touch. And if we go over to the German side, you will see that the German tanks specifically are different as well. It sounds kind of childish, but the Tommy's Trotter's tank is called the Fat Willy tank, nice one. And the German tank is designed differently and is called the Iron Hog tank. It's cool as well that they have different weapons, seeing as the Iron Hog tank has a cannon and a machine gun, and the machine gun can either shoot forwards or backwards, so a complete change there, but obviously that's down to the guns on the front and the back and just the overall design being adhered to on the battlefield and on its card as well. That's a nice little touch. And of course the aqua tanks as well over here are the same. The other vehicle that you'll notice here is very tiny. It looks like a Monopoly piece, I'm not going to lie, but if we scale it up slightly, you'll see that this is the armoured car. Now for some reason in this version of the miniatures game on Tabletop Simulator, it doesn't seem to have a card yet, which is strange, unless I haven't found it. I'm pretty sure I've looked through all of the cards and it's not there, but the main focus here with the armoured car is speed. So I imagine that when this card and its stats are released, we will see probably the player being able to maneuver multiple hexes forward if they decide to move. And in terms of weaponry, I mean, just looking at it, we have a whole bunch of guns. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3 guns on here. They're all forward facing, so we can probably assume that they would be shooting forward. But yeah, if I get more details on that, I will let you guys know. Again, check me out on the tweeters. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail about these because we do have the recruitment phase coming up, but if we look at the blimp parts, in fact, if I can just pick all of them up and flip them over, you can see that there has been a redesign of both the artwork and the types of parts that you can use. Previously, you could only buy the nose, the tail, the cannon bay, and the bomb bay, but now there are different stats depending on what you get. So, as you can see here, there are 3 different types of tail, and that will determine your speed. Some of them cost more, some of them cost less, but there is a good range of initiative values and movement and turn speeds here as well. I won't go into too much detail about those because we'll break those down in the next video, but I'm liking the rework, I'm liking the artwork, and it's the same as well for the unit upgrade cards. We'll see some differences and things being included that weren't previously in terms of weaponry and upgrades and stuff, but again, we'll break that down in the next video. And last but not least, we have the mega building references, which are pretty substantial in what they can do and what they offer to the player. So first up we have the missiles, which cost 8 swill and have an upkeep of 2. That means that once you've bought them for 8, you have to pay 2 swill each round to maintain having missiles, and it's the same for all of the other buildings. So missiles. Choose 2 hexes and place a capped token in each. At the start of the next turn, replace them with the explosion template. All units affected roll 4 melee dice and 2 explosive dice against them. Now the explosion template, the individual sort of landscape templates, so forests and mountains and stuff, they still aren't editable here in TTS. But if we take a look at the reference manual, you can see that there will be 1 explosive template which can be placed on the board as well. Meanwhile, we have the radar base, which costs 6 swill and has an upkeep of 3. All opponents must remove their plane screens. You are allowed to view all aerial planning and movement. So if you have a radar base, then your opponent has to remove their little shield that hides their consoles. Then we come to the big ones. So the Tesla Tower, which looks pretty awesome, also costs 6 swill, has an upkeep of 3. Roll 3 gun, melee and explosive dice. Each glancing hit and critical rolled range is increased from the base, causing a stun token, -1 health to all infantry, and a flame and -1 action to all ground vehicles in range. So it basically seems that like an EMP, and that if you have it in your base, you can protect your entire base by using the Tesla Tower to activate it and affect all troops in the surrounding area. And finally we have the big one, the rail cannon, which really looks like the Paris gun that the Germans used in World War I and World War II, costing 9 swill with an upkeep of 2. Choose a hex from a straight line from the base, place the explosion template down, roll 4 explosive and 4 melee against all ground units under the template. But yes, plenty of buildings, plenty of new stuff. Feel free to check it out. The links, of course, to everything will be in the description to the Kickstarter page, where you can still make late pledges if you want to buy a copy of the game when it is completely released. Once again, it is just awesome to see all of this information. Just the devs have really been paying attention to the game, and everyone's sort of understanding the questions that we've had in the community. The quarrels that we've had with certain things that haven't really been understood. There has been just a lot of detail, and communication has been key throughout as well, which is awesome to see. I'm just really ready to play it. I can't wait to start a single player campaign and of course play multiplayer with the devs in future. But yeah, feel free to check out the links, as I said, in the description. I would really recommend it because, I mean, just look at all of this. There's just so much color, and it's very, very engaging. It's very easy to understand. Everything is laid out in a simple way, and again, just the additional details of flags and stuff, that is awesome to see. So yeah, show the devs some love. Go ahead and check out the Kickstarter if you haven't already, and that is going to wrap it up for this video. If you have any questions, then feel free to let me know in the comments. For instance, what is this orange dice for? I do not know. Does it determine who goes first? Maybe if you roll a higher number, who has the highest number or the lowest number goes first? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll catch you guys later for the next one.
Right, you putrid porker. You should be proud of your hogs. I've given you, 5 additional promotion points to decorate them with. Are you listening to a word I say? Repeat after me. Minefields are very bad things to wander into. Now, press your button, and we will be the richest nation in the world. Just imagine, limitless swill supplies until the end of all time. Oh, God, don't mess it up.